Wendat, and Anishinaabe people, where they built their homes and raised their families. We appreciate these lands for the food, water, air, plants, trees, and medicines they give us. We value the land by swimming and boating, working, camping, and exploring the forests.
Thank you so much, Councillor Cardy. Item number 4 is the adoption of the agenda. It's moved by Councillor Card, seconded by Councillor Crapper, that the agenda of the meeting of council on December the 16th, 2025 be adopted as presented. Any discussion on that? Call the question. All in favor? That's carried. Thank you. And the declarations of conflict or pecuniary interest tonight? Seeing none, we'll go to item number 6, which is the adoption of the minutes, moved by Councillor Crapper, seconded by Councillor Card, that the November 18th council, December 2nd special and committee of the whole meeting minutes be received and adopted. Any errors or omissions? Call the question, then all in favor? Carried. Now coming to number 7, which are the motions and resolutions. The first is the Westport Trail Loop. And it's moved by Councillor Card, seconded by Councillor Crapper, that council support the efforts of the Westport Tourism Group to indicate areas within the village in a Westport loop off the main Rideau Trail, and that council direct staff to support the Westport Tourism Group with guidance on locations and mounting of small trail marker signs within the village. Any discussion? Go ahead.
Somebody phoned asking if we had intended to have or have already had conversations, probably not us, but the Trails Committee, with the folks who live on Pond Street. Are they involved in it, or do we know anything about that?
I know you're kind of sitting with 2 hats on here tonight, but do you know the answer to that question?
I don't know the answer to that question, but I will find out and
Okay.
And get back to Councillor Crapper.
But it's probably a good idea. I think
Yeah,
that's
just
really where
politics
Councillor
as-
Crapper's coming
yeah.
from.
Yeah.
I'll look into it.
Yeah, okay. Anybody, anything else? Call the question, all in favor? Carried. Very good. Item number 7.2 is the treasury. And this is in relation to our loan for our historical deficit.
Yep.
No.
Yeah.
It wasn't clear to me then. This is for a renewal of our existing loan.
Yeah.
Okay, this moved by Councillor Crapper, seconded by Councillor Card, that council approve the 1-year term renewal for RBC for the LSSDS loan in the amount of $269,495.15. And the council directs staff to analyze and secure the best option for renewal when the 2 BMO loans mature, and report back to council at the 2026 budget deliberations, because these are expiring like this month, right, in December.
December 31st of 2025.
Okay, and you've been told by the branch manager, branch staff, or our corporate contact, that this will help us still lock in on the lowest amount.
That's right.
Okay, very good. Any other questions then? Okay, call the question. All in favor? Carried. Thank you. 7.3 is the request from the Historical Advisory Committee. Sorry about that. Best for the Historical Advisory Committee to change the name. And it's moved by Councillor Cardy, seconded by Councillor Aragona. Whereas the Rideau District Museum's name was derived from the Rideau District Historical Society at the time, and whereas there have been no financial contributions from Rideau Lakes or area, and whereas the Village of Westport has continuously supported the museum and the Historical Advisory Committee, now therefore be it resolved that council approve the request from the Historical Advisory Committee to change the name of the museum from the Rideau District Museum to the Westport Museum. Any comments? Anybody getting any feedback on this? Yeah, anything positive?
Positive. Positive.
Okay.
Yeah.
Very good. Well, I'll call a question. All in favor? Carried. Well done to the Historical Advisory Committee. All right, so now the next is the resolution for support for the proposed consolidation of conservation authorities. It's moved by Councillor Card, seconded by Councillor Crapper. And I'm going to ask the representative of our board to read the motion.
Whereas the Conservation Authorities, excuse me, whereas the Conservation Authorities Act enables municipalities to establish local conservation authorities, and when municipalities choose to form such authorities, they assume responsibility for governance and funding through the appointment of a board of directors and the provision of an annual levy. And whereas local municipalities established the Rideau Valley Conservation Authority in 1966 and currently provide approximately 50% of total Conservation Authority funding, while the province of Ontario provides approximately 3%. And whereas municipalities have governed their respective conservation authorities for decades, tailoring programs and services to local watershed needs, maintaining accountable services standards, and ensuring fair and predictable costs for ratepayers. And whereas Bill 68, Schedule 3, and ERO Posting 025-1257 proposed to consolidate Ontario's 36 conservation authorities into 7 regional authorities and create the Ontario Provincial Conservation Agency, a crown agency that would assume oversight over conservation authorities and have the ability to levy authorities to cover its costs. And whereas the province already possesses the authority to establish overarching legislation, regulations, standards, and policies across all conservation authorities through the Conservation Authorities Act and the Ministry of Environment, Conservation and Parks, therefore be it resolved that the Corporation of the Village of Westport calls on the Government of Ontario to maintain local, independent, municipally governed, watershed-based conservation authorities to ensure strong local representation in decisions related to municipal levies, community-focused service delivery, and the protection and management of conservation lands. And further, that while the Village of Westport supports provincial goals for consistent permit approval processes, shared services, and digital modernization, imposing a new top-down agency structure without strong local accountability and governance risks creating unnecessary cost, red tape, and bureaucracy, thereby undermining efficiency and responsiveness to local community needs. And further, that the Village of Westport supports efforts to balance expertise, capacity, and program delivery across the province and requests that the province work collaboratively with municipalities and local conservation authorities to determine the most effective level of strategic consolidation to achieve both provincial and local objectives. And further, that a copy of this resolution be sent to the Ontario Ministry of the Environment, Conservation and Parks, to local MPs and MPPs, the Association of Municipalities of Ontario, the Rural Ontario Municipal Association, the Local Conservation Authority, and all municipalities in Ontario.
So discussion. We had, of course, Councillor Argona sits on the board and does a really a good job, taking a great deal of interest in what's happening. Joined the board at the time that all this was happening, so I'm sure there's lots of intense discussions. And we went to a meeting a couple of weeks ago in Ottawa, where we the first 45 minutes was a presentation by the person the government has hired to develop and implement this plan. And I know we compared notes afterwards, but I'll just speak for me. I left with significant concerns. I had not an appreciation of the role of the agency until that point in time. I had heard that the agency was going to be a board of 5 to 7 members, but then the other shoe fell when it's actually going to be an operational branch of the government to oversee conservation authorities. The speaker compared it to an hourglass, and he said the agency is kind of like the middle of the hourglass. And so once he did that, I knew that this was a huge concern, what squeezes through up and what squeezes through down. So we knew that this resolution was circulating, and we felt that we really wanted to add our weight. We're a small municipality, but we've been a member of this Watershed Conservation Authority for many, many years. We've had some very active board members, and so that's why we brought it to you today. We received first of all, the speakers, but mainly this gentleman, would answer no questions. The workshop itself was, they said it was a larger workshop with more information in it than others, because at your table, it was one of those where you had a sheet on the table with questions on it, and the group would talk about it and write their answers down. But the elephant in the room was who's gonna pay for the agency? How much is that gonna cost us? The loss of local control. If there's 7 conservation authorities across the province and they showed us the map, it's like ours goes from forever over there and forever over here. And the question itself just didn't lend itself to that. So we were all trying to make our answers, well, I think we stopped at my table trying to make the answers fit their question. We just wanted to get down our concerns. And so in his speech, at some point, he said that the levy would be no more than 1% per municipality for the agency. And, maybe they don't understand how much 1% is. So that's my perspective. I have serious concerns. Of course, I've also shared them with the other organizations that I sit on. And they are certainly advocating on our behalf, but I'll turn it to Councillor Aragon.
Yeah, I think that covers the meeting that we went to, and it was obviously that it was more performative than actually substantive. There was nothing really that we could say or do that was going to change anybody's mind. It looked like they had already made a decision and they were just going through the motions. I think for us, what it really means is that for Westport itself, is that we are now going to be put into a situation where the representation we have on the RVCA board is going to be diluted, because the RVCA is going to be amalgamated with four other conservation authorities into the larger St. Lawrence Conservation Authority. And then the whole concerns that you raised about services, representation, and funding come into play after that. How much representation will small municipalities and rural areas have on the larger regional conservation authorities is the main concern, and hence the motion.
Yeah. Councillor Crapper and then Councillor Card.
I pick up on your language is that they are going to do this, and what do we know at this point about timelines and
Soon.
yeah.
Before, I think before Q1 of the next fiscal.
Wow.
Yeah.
And so does that result in a shutdown of the Rio Valley or of some of the conservation authority bureaucracies? And
This is part of the concern by all conservation authorities, and especially the biggest discussion at the board is what happens to the local operations team and what happens to the local boards. And those questions have not been answered, and they were not addressed at the meeting that we went to. So this is still up in the air, and they haven't actually
so we
made any
probably have
announcement.
no representation in that scenario, right? Like, how's Westport going to
Well,
get
they say that every municipality is still gonna have representation.
a big board?
Big board. How'd you like to chair that board,
Huh?
right? Councillor,
Through your worship, having served a short time on the RBCA, makes me wonder why our government is trying to fix something that isn't broken. The one thing that I know about RBCA is it's well managed and it's well funded. They have large reserves and they control our expenditures. The other question that comes to mind is they have a charitable arm. And what's going to happen to that? There's a lot of the land is procured through the charitable arm, and a lot of donations and funds come in through that volunteer group of people. So I think they're just taking it from a well-oiled, well-run machine to just another government bureaucracy that's going to spend a long time doing nothing.
so I'll go to Joan, Councillor in a moment, but just to add one more sentence to your summary, that is fully funded by municipalities. So it's a well-running machine and there's a small amount of, as you say, non-municipal money that comes in, but that's not from the province. Did you want to address his question?
Yeah, so the foundations will continue to, one thing that's been confirmed is the foundations will continue to own the land that they own. So that's not being changed. But the bigger concern is, will people be willing to donate land now that it's coming under provincial jurisdiction rather than local jurisdiction? And the other concern is, will people be willing to donate funds to the foundation when it's a larger regional pot that they're donating to rather than a local pot? So they're not going to be able to influence with their donation the local activities of the local conservation authority.
Yeah.
And Sorry,
Yeah, you go.
just one last thing. There's always been some foundations that have reported that some of their contributors have already held back on their contributions because of this pending activity.
Follow
Sorry.
up, your worship, what's the upside for anybody here? For Ontario government or for the have they described that in any detail at all, what the upside of their proposal is here?
No, they figure that there'll be more efficient delivery of service. I mean, that's what they would go back to. But, you know, I've worked for the provincial government for many years and they tend to solve individual problems through significant changes in policy. And so my gut tells me that there's a couple of problem areas. And that's probably what got the ear of cabinet. And so they put this in place. There was nothing compelling, at all in that presentation that he did that we go, okay, well, we understand that. I mean, we expect the scientists and those people, you know, that's job security because it's hard to do that. There was no discussion about what happens to the EDs. How many are required? What does that org chart look like? Some of them are getting hopefully to the point where they could get a buyout or retire. I don't know. I mean, what would our conservation authority be like without some? Right? She's just so capable and so a lot of questions, but truly none answered. I'm gonna come here first and then back to here.
I guess,
Sorry.
through you, your worship, I was just wondering what the rationale was. When they started this presentation, did they say like, this is, you know, the overlying why we're doing this?
You go.
So
Sorry.
the main rationale that they're putting forward is more efficient operations across the province that are consistent. And the second is that there's going to be faster permitting processes for homes and development of homes, which makes it more in line with the Ontario provincial policy of getting homes built faster. There is no indication that there was going to be any cost savings, if that's what that was never brought up.
And so when I heard that, we know in our own community, is the RVCA even a checkbox anymore? When you're doing zoning things?
Yeah, it depends on what, if you're
It
close to
depends on
water,
what it
but yeah.
is. If there's water and close to otherwise, they've lost their checkbox on other
Some of their
Adventures.
previous responsibilities,
Yeah.
have been absorbed.
you could care.
Yeah,
Yeah,
thanks.
Marty and then Barry.
Yeah, I mean, on the comment of what the benefit, this and why, governments love mergers because they look politically astute. You're getting rid of boards and healthcare, like we talked last meeting about the health unit and all kinds of bureaucracies that are close to communities. You know, the benefit is that we get public input and an ability to lead these organizations. But if you take that away, it appears, you know, like you can make it look like you're simplifying a system, taking complexity out of a system. But there's been so many studies now of amalgamations because they've been going on for, you know, decades, and there aren't any that show improvements on in the long run. They cost more and they take away local input, and they end up becoming decentralized further down the road when some other government decides that's better.
Councilor Carr.
Yes, my final question would be, I know that RBCA has, they have a lease on their property. The building is another question, and I know when I served at their mortgage renewal or their loan renewal was coming up like in 7 years at the time, and I'd asked what they were going to do then, and they were hesitant to answer, but they may have had a premonition about what was to happen here. Have they just, is the government going to buy out the leases and
Go ahead.
That's still up in the air, and
Yeah.
we don't know what's going to happen. So the city of Ottawa owns the land, and they set the standards for maintaining that particular building. But there's been no discussion, and that's another thing that's up in the air, is what happens to all these regional offices, because now that we're going to local offices, now that we're going to a more regional structure, it's not clear.
it's unfortunate that a power that only contributes 3% has so much to say about what's going on. It makes no sense to me. If you were a 3% shareholder in Ontario Hydro, how much clout would you have? I mean, you'd have absolutely none. I still think that municipalities should fight it. Everybody should fight this move. I mean, it's ridiculous when you think about it.
Well, that will, when we call the question, I'd also like to do because this copy of this is going to be circulated. I'd like to actually do a recorded vote, or if it's unanimous, tick the boxes off, so everybody said yay, so when it goes out, it looks complete. What do you need from us, Councillor Aragona? We're supporting your position as a member, our board member that. Do you need anything else?
I think the passing of this resolution within this time frame is the key thing, because the government of Ontario is closing responses by December 22nd, I believe it is. And so there's not a lot of time for us to actually put in a response. So this is the key thing that we can do at this point.
Have you ever gone on the registry?
The register.
So I think they talk about it in here, the ERO, Environmental Registry, Ontario probably. When they are going for public consultation, that's where the proposed legislation gets posted. And anybody and everybody can go in and make their comments. So you could have a look at it.
Yep.
This one, it's helpful if you've got the number. It's 0 for 25, 1257.
Yeah.
You got it? Okay.
That's right here, yeah.
And on any topic that comes up, when they say anything, if it's posted on the environmental registry, that's what it's there for. And I've put in lots of comments over the years. I don't know if they were made a difference, but it's an option for you. So you
Okay.
may want to look at that as well.
Thank you.
Anything else? Go ahead.
I was going to inquire about letters to our representatives, federal and provincial, from the public.
Yeah. We could do that.
I think we should.
Okay. We could collaborate on how to write it and send it to, because he's not just our government rep, but he's also the House leader and in the Conservative Party. Okay.
That's a great idea.
Okay, so we'll author it, circulate it to you guys to see if you want to punch it up at all. And the ERO we'll find out. But the letter can go on the ERO.
Mhm.
Why don't we do it that way?
Yeah.
Why don't we write a letter to Minister MPP Clark, but we put it on the ERO as well. And so it's December. Does anybody know the date?
20.
We might have to get it at PEQ, but
Yeah.
okay.
But sorry, through you, following up on Councillor Card's other thought, which is there a role for us in helping educate our constituents that they may also reach out to their elected representatives and make their voices heard? So I think
I could, because this is council,
Mhm.
I'm gonna do the video. I got a lot of feedback on that. And you could share it other places.
Yeah.
And there'll just be a couple of things I talk about, but this will be predominantly the topic. How's
Yeah,
that?
good.
Okay.
Yeah.
Can do.
You gonna wear your little hat?
I might take my little hat off because, YouTube stays forever.
Yeah, it does.
Go ahead.
I just looked it up to the consultation process ends December 22nd.
22nd?
Yeah.
Okay, all
Wow,
right, well, we got a little bit.
this week.
Yeah, this week,
To Monday.
Monday. So over the weekend, we could send it back
Mhm.
and forth if you like. I'll start and send it to you.
Yep.
You want to start and send it to me?
Either's fine. Yeah, we could talk
You
about it
start and send it
offline.
to me.
Okay.
Okay, very good. All right, so if that's being said, good discussion, team. I'm gonna call the question, all in favor? And you know that I'm actually ticking these boxes. I normally don't do it. And I'm gonna put a signature that can actually be read. All right, well done. And that brings us to 8, thank you. 8.1, which is the Public Works 2026 water and wastewater rates. You worked your way through the briefing note. I'll see if you've got any questions, but I'll get the motion on. It's moved by Councillor Aragona, seconded by Councillor Cardy, that council received the report entitled Public Works 2026 water and wastewater rates, and that council pass a bylaw to update the 2026 water and wastewater rates as presented at the December 16th, 2025 council meeting. Any discussion? Councilor Gona.
So I think this is probably the single most talked about topic whenever I'm talking to any resident in the village and any constituent that is interested in what happens at council. So I think it bears a little bit of conversation.
Okay.
And so I have two questions and then a concern. So through you,
Yes.
Madam Mayor, to the Public Works, Peter. In the brief, we're talking about capital constraints and we're talking about infrastructure gaps, but it's not specific. Can we talk about what exactly is happening and why it's happening?
Good, go ahead, Peter.
So through your worship, we're really getting ahead of our capital planning and our asset management plan. So we know we've been put this in place to fund those capital costs, and even at the initial rate study, there is identified that we are needing to close the gap to fully fund the infrastructure within the village. So it is specific to making sure we can fully fund all of the pipes, plants, towers, pumping stations, and wastewater that the village has now over its life cycle.
Go ahead.
And so can we quantify this? How much of a gap is it? If it's not a dollar amount, maybe a percentage, but can we just put some type of identifier on it?
So through exactly off the top of my head, I believe it's 1.9% on the wastewater and 1.9% on the water. I'm fairly confident in that.
So if, Chris, if we back this up for people who are listening, we don't just make up numbers on how to increase it. We have done two separate studies with the same company, Watson and Associates, and they are well renowned for doing this type of work. They've got great scientists who understand what needs to be done, and they take things into consideration like our growth, our usage, and the costs for maintenance and repairs and replacement, and give us basically an idea of how much we have to increase fees every year so that those objectives are met. And so we do this every year. This is a little bit different in that in this year, Public Works is asking to move 1 year ahead. Did everybody understand that point?
Mhm.
Okay. So did you have another question then, Councillor Rowan?
I do, through you, Madam
Yeah,
Mayor.
please.
So Peter, is there, I understand the point is to jump ahead a year and that achieves the objective of getting more funds in quicker to address the gap in the funding. But is there another way to do this without jumping ahead a year?
Go ahead.
Yeah, so through your worship, so it would be breaking from the financial plan and establishing a rate based on a percentage and the dollar amount. So the formulas and the work that went into that rate study are something that was done by that third-party contractor and would require redoing in order to adequately set that rate. So similar to, I think as an example, where it's taxation, where they set the amount of money that's being needed to run the village, and then that goes back and sets the rate. In our case here, we've got a rate study that's gone back, looked at and set the rate to fully fund the systems.
When does this study expire?
So the bylaw has it should be reviewed every 3 years, which would be next year.
Okay.
Officially, it is a 5 and 10 year study, so it does not require renewing for the number of years yet.
Okay, so it goes for another few years, but it's up for review in 2026. Okay, go ahead, Joe.
Sorry, one additional
Yeah,
question
please go
for
ahead.
you. So I understand that the process is to go following the table 6.2, if anybody's interested in looking at the particular table in the report, and there it's structured right up into 2032. My question is more along the lines is, can we find efficiencies elsewhere in our budget, not related to that particular process that we're going through, that would address this 1.9% gap that we're facing right now?
Go ahead.
So through your worship, theoretically, but really the idea was it was looking at the level of service, looking at the costs on the capital side, and that was where the biggest shortfall was. So there's not really much for efficiency on the capital side. And even some of the numbers for the operational side aren't really like there. I think like I don't feel like we're skin and bone, but I certainly wouldn't advocate for less resources towards water and wastewater. Should that gap be closed through directions from service delivery from council, then when the rate study is reviewed, that would then show up there, that gap would have closed. But I feel like the short answer is I don't have anything for that at this time.
And individually, it's not a significant increase to the user. Could you just talk about that? I was just trying to find the numbers here, but it's easier if it comes from you, just because if people aren't looking at the report, and Councillor, everyone has had lots of questions about it. You said it's 1.9%. Could you give anybody who's watching who hasn't read the briefing note a sense of what that is to a user?
Yeah, so through your, I guess hopefully this is the way where I would answer that question for you. The way I've looked at it is the vast majority of the users have seen their bill reduced year over year since 2022. That was because the previously included water up to 17 cubic meters. I think folks felt like it was something that they're losing, when in reality they were subsidizing larger users. So this is the first year where the majority of the users will see their first increase in at least 3 years, and in some cases much longer. And so when we look at that year over year increase, the typical residential user has seen an increase of about 3% per year going back to 2018, which is right in line with what we've been seeing. So while the rates have gone down, the revenue has come up the 3% target, and then using these 2026 rates, the actual year over year increase has been about 3%. The average, which includes the higher users, so it's really, there's no going to be one person that has this, or there's very, very few people that are going to have this specific case, because the average is somewhere in the middle of the residential user and the commercial institutional user, which includes the village, is a 4.3% increase, which is, because that's the average of all of the users, it's not a balanced piece. There's not gonna be anybody or maybe a couple of users that happen to use that specific number. What it's doing is it's shifting the costs on to what is more representative of what's actually used by the user. So there's a base rate that everybody pays that is meant to cover those consistent costs. And then the more water you use is meant to be funded by those incremental cost rates. So those two are our biggest shifts, and that puts the consumption in the hands of the user itself. It makes billing quite a bit simpler in the long run, especially when we come for month. We're reading a day here, a day late there, or a day early there, makes those numbers really consistent. But primarily it's just meant to be, everybody knows kind of what they're paying for with each of their rates. We know from the base rates, they're paying those consistent, stable costs. And those incremental costs are just based on those fluctuations, cost to treat the water, things like hydro, chemical, things that are consistent with more usage.
Right.
That helps a little bit.
That was helpful because you reminded us that we went to instead of the 17 cubes, we went to actual user amount. And therefore, the majority of people have seen a reduction in their bills over the years. And now we are at the point where if there is an increase, the average person may see an increase this year. And you kind of summed it up at the end there. That's also because of the cost of hydro and chemicals and everything else that goes up to maintain it. Could I summarize that fairly accurately?
Absolutely, Your Worship. And I
Okay.
think it's worth noting too that the projected this year's included consumption was 3 cubic meters. But if you note, this year has one of the biggest, if not the biggest, reduction in the base service charge, which almost negates that. So that's part of bringing this in, is it's going to make billing a lot simpler. Right now, the vast majority of users are going to start to see fluctuations in their bill, and that's going to generate a relatively high number of calls.
Yeah.
So going to zero is going to have that same effect that we're already expecting this year. But with the additional reduction of that base service charge, of almost an equal amount to 3 cubic meters.
Right,
So those residential users, are gonna start to see their bills increase, but they're still year-over-year average, very much in line or lower than typical.
yeah, and I remember the discussions we had, one of the reasons you brought forward the proposal to have users pay for what they use was an issue of equity. And the people who, we have a lot of, residences here that have one person in it, and yet they were paying the same water as others. Okay, I'll go to Councillor Cardy, Crapper, and Carr.
Yeah, thank you through you, Madam Mayor. So if we're gonna skip forward 1 year, does that mean there will be potentially a freeze then next year? So that there will not be another increase, or will just continue to increase?
Go ahead.
So most likely it would be continuing each year over year, based on the rates. Now, as those change, it's not all increasing. There's said this base rate, the base rate is dropping almost $36 a month.
Right.
So it's a big drop in that base rate this year, and then the consumption is what we're looking at. The trends for consumption is why we would say the average user has increased that 3%. There'll be some that will still continue to see a reduction this year.
I should know this. Does the capital line show up on the bill?
Yes.
Good.
These
Okay,
all lines
good,
go.
good. How are you? Is that
Yeah, thank
good for
you.
you, Councillor Crapper, and then Carr?
Yeah, I was a big fan of the changes to the new system, and particularly in having amounts equate to the amount of water used. One of the things I've learned is that unfortunately, often it's low income people who use a lot more water. They've got more people in the home and more kids and so on. I'm wondering if there is, or whether we could consider, if it were ever requested, a subsidy for a family that may be in a position like that. Our water bills end up being one of the big ticket items for a family in a home. I know families where there's more than one, blended families that are living together in a home, and a lot of kids. Just a thought, and would we even be able to look at some of our connection fee reserves to help with a subsidy like that in this case? It isn't the case that the highest users of water are the lowest income people. Unfortunately, often it's the inverse of that. There's no relation really in income to, it's about how many people are living in a home. The numbers are now getting pretty high, even though they have gone down. I agree. The way we've done it has not been as painful as it could have been had we not had that study to go by. But for some people, it's becoming a burden that they're having a really hard time contending with.
Okay, I guess we'll do that on a case by case.
Yeah, well, that's a question of, have we ever considered that? And is it something we
We
could?
brought it up when we were having this conversation 2 or 3 years ago.
Have we done it? Do we
I
know?
don't think there's been any issues.
It would be about advertising it, I guess, or it's a tricky one because you don't want to, what are the conditions in which we
Exactly.
would use it?
Yeah. Have there been any challenges, go over to, I guess, the CAO, any challenges with bill payment?
Thank you through you, Madam Mayor. Nothing reported above and beyond manageable to me anyway. Maybe you have more insight on that. I know other municipalities have instituted a supplemental program for seniors, for people with more bodies in the homes, things like that. And maybe, Madam Mayor, you know this, but as I understand it, the county has a subsidy program as
Yeah,
well
I
that you
do.
can apply to.
Yeah.
So that's, I think last time we brought that up, is what we were relying on.
Right.
And I can find out what the uptake on the county program
Okay.
is. And we can go from there.
And as
That'd be
a follow-up to that, then, I mean, it's about communication about water and how we calculate it, and education about reducing water consumption. Just looking at how we're doing that communication, whether the tools we have are being well used when it comes to water, including where they can access subsidies if necessary, but mainly, are there things people haven't thought of that will reduce the amount of water used and reduce the cost? That could be a good starting point.
There's probably provincial programs that you could research and we could use their information.
And put it in with our water bills. I don't get a water bill, so I don't even know what we may well already be doing this stuff, but.
Okay. Okay, so we'll hear back on the county's program, see what's available, and could we hear back on if there's also some water conservation programs that the province already has in place that we could take their information, put it in the water bill and help people. Okay, good, Councilor Crawford.
So we did actually offer a water conservation program a couple of years ago. when this process came in. I think there was a big concern that this reduction was gonna see increase in bills and, apologize in advance for the phrasing. I think one of the biggest things we had was the vast majority of folks that were in this situation were seeing their bill reduced, so we didn't see a very much uptake at all.
Okay.
We are absolutely advocates of water conservation still at the staff level at least. We offer dye packs and leak detection kits downstairs free of charge, anybody who wants to walk in. Generally speaking, I've seen a high bill, they use them to find leaks. We
Okay.
also have offered the leak forgiveness program, which isn't quite a subsidy in that way, but conservation is part of the village's mandate for sure.
So is that enough? Like, I guess we'll wait to see the report you bring back, and then we can see if that's enough or if we could do more. Okay?
Yeah.
Okay, good.
Thanks.
Councillor Carter.
Yeah, just through your worship, a question for Peter. Is it possible to translate cubic meters into liters or gallons for it'd have more impact on the community, I think, if they could relate to a common denominator here for actually what they're conserving or what they're wasting.
Go ahead.
So through your
There's a bit of an age thing, like, we would like the imperial system.
shortest answer is 1 cubic meter is 1,000 liters. I'd recommend maybe putting something on the website that has some conversion factors. All of our infrastructure is in meters cubed, so it would require a translation is the wrong word, but a formula built in within billing, and I can tell you right now that is a recipe for problems.
Okay,
Because as soon as those get wrong, now it's possible, but 1,000 liters in a cubic meter, like our whole infrastructure billing is all cubic meters, and that's the only one I'm familiar with in the province, but I don't know.
I wasn't going there.
yeah, I think, is it a bathtub full? Like it's something that we.
I was just on the education side, not on the billing side.
Yeah,
So you make
Yeah.
people aware
yeah,
that, if you're wasting a cubic meter of water, you're wasting 1,000 liters. That makes a lot more sense than a cubic meter. Everybody's trying to put their hands around a cubic meter.
Yeah.
It's not so easy.
yeah,
So,
yeah, good point.
Apologies, thank you.
So maybe when the report comes, we could look at that. Do you have anything else? Yeah.
I just wanna, because we deal with this, then we can talk about it, but the average person, and Peter lives and breathes this every day, so this is at the top of his mind, but the average person really doesn't understand, or may have trouble understanding, why we are doing this and the entire process that we went through to get to this point.
Right.
At this point, we're at the midway point in a 10-year cycle of going to a complete consumption-based model for water usage.
Correct.
And the transition that people are going to see is that the savings that were projected would be comparing not month to month or year to year, but comparing what they would have been paying if we would have been on the old system before we adopted this. Because I think when you look at the math, the way that I basically did it for a home that consumes 12 cubic meters, at the end of the 2032, they'll be saving approximately $12 a month, and they'll be saving, which equates to approximately $120 per year compared to the old system. And I'm sure Peter is going to be more accurate on that than I am, but that's the way I calculated it, and I think that's an important point to get across, because whenever I'm talking to folks about the water and table that we're following and the whole way that we're doing this, there's still some confusion about where the savings are.
Interesting. Peter?
Yeah, so through your, if I'm understanding correctly, so I've got a lower residential unit, so a consumption of around 7 cubic meter per month, which was pretty typical. That number is starting to creep up as the village expands. In 2022, their bill would have been $184.59 per month. 2025, 2026 rather, it'd be 178, so a reduction of $6.20 per month, which would be around $82 a year. Is that what you were looking for, Councillor Argona?
Yeah.
So now a higher residential user, so 10 cubic meter per month. This is their first year of an increase. So this year, their bill, which would have been the same as all of the other users, is at $207 a month. which is an increase of $13 over 5 years per month. So it is a $140 increase from $140 a year increase from 2022. But that's where those smaller percentages come in. They saw reductions. Their first year of increase was actually last year in 2025. And we did not get a bunch of calls for these users where they're still residential, but they're using kind of a higher amount. Most of our calls were around one-off high bills where they're referred to either the leak forgiveness program or leak detection on their own. So I'm kind of expecting similar patterns this year as last year, but those increases I feel have been much more equitable to take that word, and the percentage increase for our residential users has been quite moderate compared to neighboring municipalities.
Yeah. It's a lot of information, a lot of data. And so as you're speaking, Peter, I'm listening. I've got Councillor Aragona on my left shoulder. And some of our community members on my right shoulder, figuring out how do we make this easier for them to understand. So I think what we're hearing from council is if you could put your mind to it with the rest of the staff on like a one pager that can go on the website that kind of captures where Councilor Eric stood there. Our method of collection before was this. And we felt that this wasn't fair. So we've gone to that without using all the technical jargon, and the benefits to individuals who are the average user is this over a number of years. I don't think it needs more than 2 or 3 paragraphs, or people's eyes will roll back in their head. But I think the message that we want them to get is one, it's an independent third party who's offering us our advice. And 2, it's really well managed. You know, that you stay right on top of it. That's clear to anybody watching this. But I do think that we have to put it just into a few simpler terms, put a spot on the page, maybe send it out in bills or whatever if you want to do that as well. But maybe for the next meeting, this isn't something you have to drop everything and get done. Maybe even bring it back to committee of the whole in January, February, and let council have a look at it, because they're quite invested in making sure that we try and simplify it, because this is a really good news story. When you're a small community, we all know the amount that you're going to pay for services, particularly water and wastewater, is higher than if you live in a community that has, 10,000 people, because that seems to be the sweet spot for it. So am I hearing that right?
Yeah.
That everybody would like a kick at that and to bring it back, see if maybe we share it with our husbands and whatever, and see if they go, I got that now. And because it's a good news story. Did you?
Yeah, just a bit on that point. So I'm looking at the website right now, and water, wastewater is buried way down at the bottom. No matter what we put on there, it's going to be hard for it to jump out. It's hard to find things on the website is a challenge. Talked about it lots. It's not working. It's not working for people to find the things they want to find. So it's a great idea, but how do we get it so that I'm thinking about something like understand your bills.
I think we put $25,000-$30,000 into the budget and get a new website.
Well, we're gonna have to, but somebody's gonna have to, because no matter what you do,
Maybe
so
Google, support water rates, and it goes boom. it's
because
right in front of
because
you.
Peter's gonna go out and spend time doing this.
Yeah.
It's gonna come back. We're gonna spend time looking at it, and let's go onto this, and nobody's
Good
gonna
period.
find it.
I hear you, Mark. Yeah.
So let's keep our eye on that ball
Yeah,
and figure
I hear
out.
you. And I could be lowballing that amount. I just pulled it out of thin air. I saw Councillor Aragona twitching over there.
25 grand.
I know.
Not even gonna touch it for
But,
that.
quite well made and well taken.
Yeah.
Okay, anything else about this? Go ahead.
I just wondered, I'm trying to think back to the Watson report. Did they not do some projected savings in a graph or chart for people that you
Yeah.
could reproduce?
Yeah, but in simple way. Not only simple, that's not in
Yeah.
everyday colloquial language so that people understand. Yeah. Okay, that was a great discussion. Thanks for your interest in that, Councillor Aragona. You got all of us kind of working on that. Do I need to read the question again? Are you okay? Okay, then I'll call the question. All in favor? Carried. So the next is an information item. I messed up my agenda here. Hang on, over here. It's 8.2, which is the EA Technical Steering Committee dissolution. And it's moved by Councillor Cardy, seconded by Councillor Aragona, that council receive the report entitled Public Works EA Technical Steering Committee Dissolution for information purposes. Any comments? Councillor Crawford?
On their dissolution, does that group have any advice for, or are there, is there a summative statement by that committee that we should be hearing as council on what they have learned through their process, what they believe we should be considering?
I think staff could provide that to us. I mean, the thing that has been in the back of my mind, in the back of your minds, is we haven't tasked them with anything in now 16 months.
Mhm.
And with the draft report coming back, there's nothing they're gonna do because now it's all confidential as far as land acquisition. So, does Scott Bryce have a final report, something that he could provide to us maybe?
I believe the culmination would be the last report that went to council
Okay.
a year ago-ish. I think council took that from information and then provided direction to narrow the scope that was being looked at.
Gotcha. Okay.
So I would like to say that's already done. I'm sure there's plenty of like individual members who are all going to have thoughts on the process going forward. There's also gonna be a lot of members that have aspects of their primary their primary job to bring forward for the village.
Mhm, sure.
But I think as a TSC, I think that last report would probably serve to be the.
Okay. If you need it recirculated, Councillor Crapper, just ask staff and then you could reread it and.
Yeah,
see
so
what goes off
that
what
was
we
the
think.
point at which we had, that the assimilative study was voted against. Is that the
Right.
point in time that
Correct, yeah.
stopped? Is there a point in time that we would, so is this dissolution permanent, or is there a potential in the future that this TSC would be required by us, or would we be reforming a different one? And
Reforming what? What you scratched?
would it, is it conceivable that this committee will be restruck?
I would think that if we need some assistance, then they would probably strike a different committee. A lot of these people have retired, quit, and moved on.
Yeah,
But truly, because I have kept banging at this door, because they are like my neighbors, right?
Yeah.
Who are on the committee and what's happening. And the reality is there's just no more work for them to do.
mhm.
As always, if the engineer or the public works needs some assistance, they'll reach out and get it. But we had to, I mean, I'm pleased to see this come so that they know we're managing their expectations. There's no work to do, so. There was a letter that went out thanking them for their work. We could, I don't know if you guys do a lunch or whatever, I'll leave that with you and Mr. Bryce, who was the chair.
Okay, no, that answers my questions.
Okay, very good. Then I'll call the question. All in favor? Carried. And 8.3, this is our Westport Harbor Annual Report for 2025. And it's moved by Councillor Aragona, seconded by Councillor Cardy. The council received the report entitled Recreation Westport Harbor Annual Report 2025. And the council approves the permanent inclusion of the 3 previously trialed seasonal client slips for 2026 and forward. So you read the report, it was pretty good.
Mhm.
It was like a winter night, snowy night. The CAO said, "You want to change?" I said, no. I kind of like that feeling of it. I'll just offer my 2 cents worth and then turn it open to council. Extraordinary, good work all around. The number of things, like there's not hundreds of them because not hundreds we can do, but you have demonstrated your willingness and your open-mindedness and that you listen to people. The kayak thing was one example. It's a point in time. It'll get some traction. This week I was sitting at the chiropractor and a gent told me that he joined. I love he's a new person arrived in the village and last year loves the village. Told me how he had never heard of the village and was somewhere and he heard about it. And he's in the chiropractor. He's a pretty young guy. Like he's Councillor Aragona's age. He said, but I've joined hockey and now I need a chiropractor. And I said, oh, hockey, where are you playing? And you've got a shinny league going for people who just want to play hockey with no goalie and no contact. Well done. Well done because it recognizes, I don't want to say that to the other hockey players that still get out there and the warriors that are knocking each other out, but thank you for being as full service as you can. So well done. Anybody else about the report? I'll go to Counselor Card and then Counselor Aragona.
Through your worship, pretty much ditto. Any feedback is always good feedback on the arena or the harbor, so very, very pleased with what's happening in both those areas.
Yeah. Oh, for a couple of $1 million, eh? Yeah. Counselor Aragona.
I just want to say that I was pleased to see there was a 10.4% increase in revenue, that the programs for using the slips beyond the regular period worked very well, and that we had an uptake on that. So I think that was a great initiative, and I'm fully supportive of continuing that as we move forward. I did want to say that the wait list is still approximately 42 applicants, so I think we want to see if we can figure something out with that at some point, but I'll leave it in Chris's hands to make some thoughts on that.
Yeah, for sure. I just want to go back to your staff. They're really great. Did you want to comment on that, Counselor Cardy? Go ahead.
I guess through you, Madam Mayor, I want to say thank you very much. Like the lights even at the bridge right now, it's the little things. It looks really good. You know, it's clean and I love the fact that we're looking into accessibility for our bridge. Anything like that that can make our awesome village a better place is a good thing. So thank you. And thank you to all your staff. It's really important. So.
Yeah, I wouldn't mind, I guess, I think is there somewhere on a board, do we have the Harbor Employee of the Week or the month? They're all just so hardworking, and anyway, I just
Yeah.
leave that with you. There's other places where I've taken my own boat where I kind of see, where I took my own boat.
You have a boat?
I have a beautiful boat. Yeah. Anyway, I leave that with you. Anybody else, comments? All right, then I'll call the question. All in favor? Well done, Chris. Done. All right, then we're at bylaws. 9.1 is the use of public property policy. This is a bylaw that we had at 2 committee of the wholes. At the last one, we recommended that version to tonight. It's moved by Councilor Cardy, seconded by Councilor Aragona, that bylaw 2025-35 being a bylaw to regulate the use of public property be read a first, second, and third time and finally passed the 16th day of December 2025. We know what loitering is. I'll call the question. All in favor? And that's carried. Well done. And bylaw 9.2 is bylaw 2025-37. What we've already talked about is the wastewater rates. We know that in addition to passing this bylaw, we're going to do a little bit of work for communication over the next month or so. And the motion is moved by Councilor Aragona, seconded by Councilor Cardy, that bylaw 2025-037 being a bylaw to provide for the 2026 rates and charges respecting the supply of water and the treatment of wastewater for the village of Westport be read a first, second, and third time and finally passed the 16th day of December 2025. Before we do that, did you want to make some comment about Spring Street last night so the public can hear our comments?
Yeah, to your worship, I've already emailed counselors and Peter, having observed the waterfall coming down Spring Street last night, I was amazed at the quick reaction time. I called Peter to see if they had actually known where the break was, and he said, yeah, we're on it, and I knew he was in a hurry, but after 10 minutes I went out, and Brandon, one of Peter's supervisors, had already he had his boots on and he was looking for the valve in the street, and the valve had to be under a foot of water, and I don't know how he found it. He found it and dug it out. I'm sure it was partially frozen at the surface, and like I said earlier, it couldn't have been much. It was definitely less than 20 minutes that he had the water actually shut off, and the flood had subsided. Really quick work, and I know that Peter has some very reliable people that he counts on to bring in equipment and that kind of thing. So within an hour and 15 minutes, there was a machine there, and they were actively engaged in doing the repairs. So that's better service than you're going to get 99% of the other places. So kudos to our PUC guys.
Good, thank you. And I'm just going to come to the CAO or Public Works. So now we're talking about last night. Can we just get an update on the boil water and what your thoughts, what information is you have that when, or anything else you want to add to this topic, but for the public to know?
So through your worship, as a result of the tower emptying so quickly and the loss of pressure in the system, as well as bringing the water treatment plant back online. There was a consultation with the medical officer of health and the minister of environment, who did issue a boil water advisory as was expected by staff. So we're working to with that full expectation. As part of that, we completed the first round of sampling shortly after getting the break isolated, knowing that we want to make sure we have some samples for the village. That round has gone into the labs. We're waiting the results on those. The second round of sampling, which is in the area of the break, that went to the lab this morning. So the same results, we'll see both those results likely tomorrow morning. The second round of sampling, which is typical for something like this, to get 2 rounds of clean samples. We'll expect that to be in the lab as soon as the doors open tomorrow morning, which means we will start getting more updates tomorrow and the next day on the boil water advisory. So once we get the results Thursday morning, we'll be back in consult with medical officer health, who will make the directions on the boil water advisory. So right now we have precautionary boil water advisory based on the tower emptying and the loss of pressure. All of our in-house sampling, our residuals have all come back good. We're noticing no issues at the dead ends. We're getting no complaints about water quality or anything like that. So we're confident that we're gonna see good results when we come back. So
This is an independent lab that we use in Kingston.
that's correct. So independent licensed accredited laboratory. So all of our bacteriological samples go there. So we take them up and they put a rush on them. So
Good.
we'll have the turnaround of
Nice.
24, 25 hours.
Okay, thanks. Anybody add that? Go ahead, Councillor.
Yeah, excellent work all around. The theme is how do we get people the information efficiently and quickly on something like this? Could have been worse, and we'll have other times where we need to communicate quickly. 2 thoughts based on lots of calls. One is that if the website could just have even like there's info on there, but you got to find it. It doesn't jump out. And if we could have a red bar at the top that says boil water advisory, here's what it means, period. And the second piece would be, because not everyone uses the internet, if there could just be a telephone answering thing that people press for information on the current water situation, press 1. And just because I had that with some other service that I was looking for just today, and it was I forget where it was, but you get it was with WTC. They had an outage thing, right? So their first thing that comes up is, this is the outage situation. Don't bother waiting on the phone. Now you got all the information, you're good to go.
Okay.
But people get anxious when they don't know all this stuff. And they start and not everybody wants to search through Facebook pages to find it. I think we did a good job of getting what we got out there, but you still had to find it or have access to the technology to see it.
So you do know that if the MOH had said we had to do a door-to-door, you were at the top of our list.
Yeah,
to
well,
call.
well, that's how my campaign would begin.
There you go. Hit that rumor started. Madame, did you have some input into that, or?
Yeah, well, certainly that's something to look into. I think we do have the capability to have an automated message when people call in, for sure. It's been Dawn right now. I think she fielded about 45 calls in the span of 8 minutes. So, but we've all been kind of just answering the phone as we can.
Yeah,
But that's a good idea.
Yeah, it is a really good idea. I've done the WTC thing.
Yeah.
And Hydro One, they do it, yeah. Well, that's good, great idea. Anybody, anything else? Okay, thanks for that briefing for the people who were listening and for council. They got to hear it from your lips. This was the bylaw, the motion was for the bylaw for the water and treatment, supply of water and treatment of wastewater rates. I'll just call that question. All in favor. Carried. Very good. And any notices of motion? Announcements. We have a couple of announcements. One is our levy this year, instead of putting the levy downstairs in the town hall. It has nothing to do with the fact that it is like about 6 degrees down there. Maybe I'll have a furnace, but we decided that there's a lot of standing around, hands in pockets, and we thought we'd make it more fun this year. So the levy is, of course, New Year's Day, from 11 till 1. Chris is opening up the arena for people, so bring your skates, bring your family, bring your kids, bring your moms and dads. It'll be free skate for 2 hours on January the 1st. And then when you're hungry, council will be upstairs. We'll have some snacks. And you can see the changes that have happened in the canteen area. And we can have some laughs and we can bring you up to speed on things. So January 1st, don't come to town hall, come to the WTC Communication Center, AKA Arena. And if you don't skate, don't worry about it. Just come up, have the food and the laughs. So that's on January 1st. All members of council have received an inordinate number of concerns from community members with the Bank of Montreal's announcement that they're closing in June. And the CAO and I had a meeting with them a couple weeks ago. There wasn't a lot of information at that time. We had some suggestions we raised our serious concerns. Then we had a couple of suggestions, including leave the ATM, and none of our suggestions are being supported. The ATM is leaving as well. So I hope I haven't missed the boat here with the members of the community and with council, but I thought that the best thing we could do is to take the concerns of our community to the BMO on January the 15th, when the regional people are going to be there. So in order to do that, we're holding a breakfast with the mayor on Tuesday, December the 30th. We did talk about between Christmas and New Year's, but I think the people who are worried about BMO closing probably aren't in Florida somewhere celebrating Christmas. So breakfast with the mayor is always at the meeting's at 8:30. The Cove puts on a breakfast if you'd like to buy your breakfast. And so our plan, the CEO, my plan is that when people raise their concerns, we will document that. And so if people don't want to get up and say it out loud, we'll have some paper there that they can write it out. And that will give us enough time to roll that into a document, which any member of council can join me, but which will be presented on the day when the BMO regional people are here in the village. So New Year's Day levy, but we'd really like to see a lot of people come out for the breakfast with the mayor in a couple of weeks. And we will make sure that your concerns are shared, so that you have your say. Those are my announcements, I think. Anybody, anything else? Okay, CAO and then Chris.
Sorry, through you, Madam Mayor, did you want to talk about changing the committee of the whole date in February?
In February, unfortunately, both the CAO and I have conflicts with the dates. We just like to push them ahead, each of them a week. And so if you're all right with committee of the whole would be on the 10th, not the 3rd. And council will be on the 24th, not the 17th. So committee of the whole will be February 10th. And council will be February 24th. Let us know if there's any concerns with that and we can change it otherwise. And for me, again, thank you, and thank you on behalf of the AMO board. These things come up and I just try and adjust where I can. And CAO also has got some conflicts that month. Chris.
Yeah, no, I just wanted to follow up on, you mentioned the New Year's levy and free skating on the 1st of January, but we actually are able to offer from December 21st right up until January 3rd, free public skating every day due to a variety of different sponsors that have stepped up to
Nice.
cover the cost of the ice. So just so generous to be able to do that. And of course, we're closed Christmas Day, but all of the other days, it's 11 to 12:30. The New Year's Day one is a little bit longer. But all of it's free public skating due to a variety of different sponsors. I posted it on Facebook this morning, the schedule and the sponsors themselves, but I just wanted to thank them for being so generous.
That's great.
Yeah.
That's perfect.
Yeah.
Well done. Anybody else an announcement? Peter.
So I can, through your, I can move the date from December 1st to December 20th. Reed Lakes Fire Department, including some of the firefighters of the Westport station. They've sponsored a public skate on Saturday, December 20th from 5 to 6 p.m. And the Reedy Lakes Fire Department hockey team is playing the Leeds and Thousand Islands Fire Department hockey team from 6 p.m. to 7 p.m. at the WTC.
And what day is that?
Saturday, December 20th. at
Oh.
5 to
We
7
should
p.m.
come and
This
cheer
Saturday.
loud. Will you turn the heat on, Chris? Becky? Will there be heat? Oh my God.
There'll be some.
VIP section.
They're collecting
That's
for
right.
the food bank,
Food bank,
for the area food banks as well.
Okay, so this Saturday,
Saturday,
at 6 o'clock?
6 o'clock is the game, 5 o'clock to 6 is public skating.
Public
sponsored.
skating from 5 to 6 this coming Saturday, and 6 to 7, an outstanding hockey game.
Mhm.
Not with our Ritos at that time, but with the incredible Rito Lakes hockey team playing, firefighters hockey team playing who?
The Township Leeds Thousand Islands Fire Department.
So where are you playing?
I am a coach.
Oh, you
of
wait a
the
minute. Okay,
Leeds
yeah.
Fire or scorekeeper. I get fired quite a bit also. It's
Oh,
it's a good
thanks for
time.
telling us. Okay, and donations to the food bank, so there'll be a collection box there for food.
That's correct.
Awesome, well done, well done. Remember what happened last time? All right, I think that's us. Any questions from the public or the media? All right, so we do have a very brief closed session. We are going to moved by Council Party, seconded by Councillor Aragona. The council adjourned to closed session to consider a position plan or strategy to be applied to negotiations and personal matters of an identifiable individual. Call the question, all in favor, carried. We will be back. Back in. Welcome back, everybody. We moved by Councillor Cardy, seconded by Councillor Aragona. The council met in closed session to consider a plan, position, or strategy to be applied to negotiations and personal matters about an identifiable individual, and that council took no further action beyond receiving information from staff. I'll call that question. All in favor? That's carried. Confirmation bylaw moved by Councillor Aragona, seconded by Councillor Cardy, that bylaw 2025-38, being a bylaw to confirm the proceedings at its meeting held on December 2nd and December 16th, 2025, be read a first, second, and third time and finally passed the 16th day of December 2025. All in favor? Carried. And finally, Merry Christmas, everybody. Hope to see you at the Breakfast with the Mayor, Tuesday, December 30th, 8 o'clock for breakfast at the Cove, 8:30 for having your say. We want to hear what the BMO closure, what impact, what effect it has on you. And the village is committed with our staff to recording your comments and taking them to the BMO executives when they come to the branch in January. So moved by Councillor Cardy, seconded by Councillor Aragona, that this meeting of the council, the village